Hello folks, Matty here from Broxstone. So on this video I'm going to show you how to fit a recessed manhole cover into a paved area. So this is a round, plastic round, 300mm diameter going to a square. Makes it a whole lot easier to cut round and also looks a lot better too. So there's two things I do when I'm fitting one of these. I'll always lay me paving first. Two reasons, as I say. First one is to get you finished level, spot on. If you're going blind before you've laid any paving, there's a good chance when you get to it, you're not going to have the millimetre perfect height. Second reason is the orientation. There's a good chance as well that it could be slightly skew-if from your line, especially when you're working off like a tight 3mm joint like this is here. So that's another reason. And also you can work it to your advantage, like we've paved here, and I can get that lid now right over on this joint, so that is going to make it a whole lot easier to cut. But that's not the main reason. It's also for the aesthetics. It's going to look right sitting in that corner. For the sake of moving it up there 30mm, you have a tiny little slither of flag, which is a good chance it's going to break. So it's better for the job to do that. Because it's not sitting directly on the cover here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take out a section of this stone and put down concrete so that it's sitting on something solid all the way around. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to dig this stone out around the edge, and we're going to lower with the grinder. We're going to lower this trim, allowing us to get about 15-20mm of mix underneath that, so it's bedded on nicely. To minimise any muck going down into the manhole, I'm going to drop this in. So just a bit of piece of ply, cuts slightly less than the diameter of the inspection chamber. Drop that in. Got a rope on it to pull it back up after. It's not going to get every little bit, but it's going to get the bulk of it. So that'll be just pulled out after with all the muck on. So take this stone out and we'll cut it. When you're doing this, it's a good idea to be very careful, especially with porcelain, because as you know, a little tap with something like this spins to the side and it's going to chip. So go steady. I prefer these manholes to the plastic ones you get. These are all galvanised, and the lifting system's excellent, which I'll show you in a bit. The plastic ones, you find you never quite get them square because they always have a little twist in them, and it's not good when you're trying to get everything as good as possible. Check we've got roughly the right area out around. Yeah. So just this side we need to take off with the grinder so it sits down flush. Get the goggles on. go. Keys. Good catch. So once that's ground down, and then check it with a little bit lower, which we are perfect. Got about 10 mil this side, and a little bit more there. Actually, I can see a little lip there. I'll just take that off, and then that'll be better, sit better. Here we go. Just cut this off. A bit of 10 amp. There we go. Get that out. There's a stone caught. Right, I'm happy with that. Let's check again. Perfect. Get it out of the way. Okay. So now, here we have got, here's one I made earlier. I always like to keep the working area tidy. Right. Here we have, this is a semi-dry concrete mix, so it's got 10 milli pea gravel in, and it's got grits and cement. So this just go round the edge of where the lid's gonna sit. So it's sitting on something substantial. Obviously, if you've got a brick chamber, the manhole cover will just sit directly on that. So just putting it in and firming it down, you want to bring it to the height roughly of this chamber. So once you've got your concrete in there, you can put your mortar mix on top. So we've got a grit sand and cement with a bit of plasticizer in there, 4-to-1, so it's nice and strong, quite stodgy. Don't want anything too wet where it's going to be dropping. The big trowel on it. So my piece of wood is still in there, just stopping any muck dropping down. So we need to go round all the edges so the whole base is supported. So we're ready there now. Just try the cover on first. That's perfect. Just needs knocking down a bit into this mix. So what I'll do before I go any further, I'll remove our piece of ply. As you can see, it's caught a lot of stuff and there's virtually nothing in there. It was a little bit high here, so I'll just reduce that a bit, because what we don't want now is loads of mix falling back down there after we've kept it so clean. So offer it up. You want the same kind of gap as you've got with your joints. So I've got 3mm there. So it's squared up. Now I just need to take it down to height. So I've got a visual obviously off these flags. So this edge here should follow suit. But what I'll do, I'll obviously check it through with the level. You just want your manhole cover to sit slightly below your paving, rather than proud, if anything, down a bit. Because when this cover goes in, which we'll check in a minute, sometimes they sit a little bit higher. So I'm just going to get down and check the clearance. A bit high in this corner. They're not always perfect, these, sometimes they can be twisted. And the same there. That's usually about right. Okay. So before I go any further, check it's clean, which it is. Let's lock the lid in. That's sitting pretty flush. That's sweet. So I'll take it back out. I'm happy with that. Now I just need to flaunch around this edge here. Scrape some of that excess away first. This side. Try not to let any drop in now. So it's important when you're flaunching, haunching, whatever you want to call it, that you don't take it too high up so you can't get your paving in and your bed. So just bear that in mind when you're doing this process. You want about 100mm around the edge there. Once that's done, like that, so the last thing to do is to always cover it up overnight, never leave it open, and maybe drop in a cone or something so no one treads on it. That's phase one complete. Right folks, it's the next day, everything's nice and solid. I've got the flag there, gonna put it on top, get it marked up and get it cut. Okay, so I've moved the camera in a bit closer now so you can see exactly what I'm doing, and I'll just talk you through the process. So before you actually move the flag into position, what you want to do is you want to find your fixed points of these lines on the flag which is surrounding it, because once you put your flag on top to mark it, you're not gonna have a guide to where these lines are running through. There is obviously you can put it by the side and you can use a tape measure to mark these sizes, but I always find the most accurate way is to do it this way. It's my preferred method anyway. So what I'm doing here, I'm keeping this, maintaining the same gap I've got round, which is 3mm joints. So that is running parallel with the manhole. And just to check it, you can always just put your measure on the back and check that it's square. But really, the main thing is, the most important thing is it's running parallel with this, because that is where your flag is going to finish. So I've got that right. So what I'm going to do now, I'll just put a little, with a pencil, a little mark either side, so that represents this line of the cut. And then I'll do the same for this side here. So once again, maintaining that gap. If anything, I like to do me cuts a little bit tighter, because you can always take a little bit more off, but you can't have it back on. Okay, so we got those fixed points there. We don't really need to mark the internal, because all we'll do is work off this line here. So we'll be taking the thickness of the cover plus another 3mm for this side, which is 15mm in this case. So we've got it, once we've got that line in, we can measure back 15mm and do the same for the internal. Now the next thing to do is find where your handles are going to go. So it's the same process, like that. Mark, mark, and then this side as well. Mark, mark, and then also this way. So on this, because it's only a small distance there that we're squaring up off, what I will do is I'll square it up off the flags that are in as well, to check it's nice and everything's nice and square. That's bang on. That's for your handles, and then the same on this side. Okay, yeah, happy with that. There we go. So that's every area covered. Obviously you'd replicate that if you were cutting around it this side, but we've managed to get it nice and tight up in this instance, which is always what you want to do, because otherwise if we were to get that central, it would have been another 30mm and it would have been horrible little cut as you walk out your door. So we've packed the mortar right underneath here before we push this in, so we know this is all sealed in. It's been sealed from the inside, so it's lovely and solid. Right, so we'll get the flag on next. So you can obviously lay it on the cover, but what you might find, this end might drop. It might rock a bit when you're measuring, so you can either put a dollop of water in this corner, or you can simply just nip the corner with a trowel like that. So we'll lay it down like so. Excuse my head in the way. That's the problem when you've got no air. Everywhere else is warm, but your bonds get chilly. Okay, so you get it nice and squared up, so you want to maintain your joints the same. Okay, just catching on something there. Got to get this right. Okay, nearly there. Okay, I'm happy with that. Yeah, okay, right, that's in position. So now I still use the pencil, because if I do it in a marker, if I bring this line down here for the edge of the manhole, I don't know exactly where to stop till this line's through, and the same there. So what I do is do it in pencil first until you're happy with it, and then you go over it with your marker. So line that up with that, bring that through. So this is the external of the manhole. Actually, technically it's an inspection chamber, so apologies for that. Okay, so that's that, and then we need to do for the handles. So these were the lines for the handles, so we're not coming in as far with these yet. That's that side. And then that side. I'll show you how to mark the distance in a minute. Okay, and then actually here we go. I was going to say I'll show you the distance in a minute from there to there with a tape, but I've already put the marks on. That's another way of doing it, literally just measuring the space in between. But as I said before, this is my preferred method when rather than relying on a measurement, you've got an actual visual there. It's important when you're doing this to get, when you're setting your level up above the marks, it's important to line them through accurately, because if you don't do that, then obviously your cut's going to be off. So it's just, I think that just comes with experience really, because obviously you could have one end lined up and then when you look from this side it could be slightly skew. So what I do is I keep my head in the same position and sight it through, look from above, get it right, and then keep your head in one position and just move your eyes from left to right. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Now I've got to measure the internal, which is 15 mil. So there we go, that's that mark. Same here. And then this side, I'll move it out and I'll measure that separately. So I don't really need to use pencil on this part now, because I know where we're going with that. So what I'll do, I'll go over it now with my marker. I always use a Sharpie for marking, because fine tip one, because it's permanent, so when you're putting the water on it you're not going to lose your mark. And as I always say, the more accurate your mark, the more accurate your cuts are going to be. If you've got a big wide marker or like a chalk, you're not going to be accurate, because it's thick, isn't it? So which part you go to. Whereas this, literally I just leave a tiny little bit of the mark on, and then I usually use the grinding pad just to take the edge off. Okay, so that's that done. So now, actually this one I'm laying. So now I've got my 15 milli mark. I could do it this side here, but I'll just sight that through. I'll just square it up. So there's my 15. There we go. Same this side. So that's it, we have it all marked up. So what I'll do now, I'll just move this to the side and I'll just check this measurement here. It's a bit, yeah, a little bit less, so it's about 12 mil that. It also depends on where you've got a bit of play on your manhole as well, so when you're marking up, just try and get that square as well, an even gap. Small detail, but when you're working on little tolerances, it can come down to little details like that to get it right. So we're not taking as much off here because we've got the joint here and the flag was basically in line with the edge of the inspection chamber, so we're only literally taking 10 milli off these two sides now. Okay, 10 milli, 10 milli. Hopefully I'm still in shot here. Here we go. And there we have it, all marked up, ready to cut. So I've cut the heavy out with the still saw, with the whizzer. I'm just going to tidy these little rebates out now with the grinder. Right, so when you're happy with your cuts, you check them, check that they fit and you don't need to nip anything off anywhere. Then what I like to do on porcelain is just get like a little hand polishing pad, or you can use a diamond grinding cup as well, just to take the edges off. There's not really any shelling on this, but it just gives it a uniform finish around the edge, so it's a good idea to do that. Just wet it down, rub it round. So your paving's cut, just got to lay it now. So with these trays, they're 80mm deep. So rather than having 60mm of wet mortar moving around on the bottom of on this steel, which can, you know, they can't, when you're laying multiple flags within that space, you can knock one down, the other one can lift up. So what I like to do is put either like some offcuts of flag in the bottom or some semi-dry, just to build it up a bit so it's not moving around. So I'll put that in there. So I'll be bedding on about 20mm of mortar. So this is just a semi-dry mix of 10mm gravel and grit sand cement. Doesn't really matter what gravel you use, but that's just what we had round on site. So that just takes up the majority of the bed like that. So we're good to go. This base is fine because this is what we've been laying on previously, so we're good on that one. So what I'll do when I put the bed down, it's crucial to get your bed spot on when you're doing a shape like this, because you've got this awkward leg here which potentially could break when you're mauling it down. So if anything, I like to go a little bit wetter with me mix when I'm putting flags in like this, and I spend a little bit longer as well getting the bed right, because the thing is, if you put your flag down and it's a little bit high and you've got to maul it down, there's a good chance that it's going to crack here. So spend the time getting your bed right, bring it in to height, and then I'm going to use a flag just to check the level before I actually drop it in. And then I'll show you how I lay it as well, because after going to all that effort of cutting the flag and getting it spot on, you don't want to break it at this point. So like I say, it's worth spending the time to get it spot on. So I'm just moving the mix around. I'm just looking the bottom of it, the surrounding flags for me height as a guide. So I've got roughly the right amount in there. So this is just a grit sand, 5:1 in cement, bit of plasticizer in it. And like I say, it's probably a little bit wetter than what I'd normally use, but so there's a bit more play in the mix, so it can, when you're working it down, it will move, so you haven't got to give it too much pressure. So I think I'm nearly there with that. So what I'll do, keep like an offcut, a flag. Oops, that was close. And you just want to drop it in and just check what it's like with the surrounding flags. So here that looks a little bit low, so we'll need a bit more in there. And then this side, near enough there, but like it's probably the same there, a little bit low. Put a bit more in there. Same here. Not talking much, but it's best to get it right now. I'll just try that again. That's pretty good. On that side. Yeah. And there I can see that by eye, that's about right. So where I've put it down, there, I can actually see where there's a little bit's missing, so I will add a little bit more, because if anything it was on the light side. Okay, right. I'm happy with that now. So what I'll do now is just ruffle it up a bit. Not too much, because I know it's pretty bang on. I always cut it back a little bit off the edge like that, just so you don't get any grit popping up, which will fault your flag. Just pull it back a little bit like that, and it just gives you something to knock into. So get me flag now. Here's one I made earlier, as they say, on Blue Peter. Is that still going, Blue Peter? I don't know. So this is a priming slurry, so it's a cement based slurry. Just mix it up with water to get a nice stodgy paste, like the consistency of like a thick porridge. So usually on doing big areas we'll use a roller and whap it on, but for this a little brush is fine. Another reason for getting your base right is because once this stuff's on and you put it down, if you need to take it back up, you're going to take half the mix and half the bed with you underneath, so it's good. That's another reason to get it right. So get it on the edge there, just drop it in, keep a bit of pressure onto this side by my foot, and then into place. Now normally obviously you'd use your maul on this and give it a bit of welly down, but if we do that on here, there's a good chance it's going to fracture here or here. So all I'm going to do is just literally work it into place like that, because I know that's a solid bed underneath. Just keep working it down. Just looking around and using this as a guide. The flags around the edge. You can see, I know it's full because it's actually popping up. The mix is popping up all around the edges as I'm taking it down. So yeah, I'm happy with that now. Looks good. Maybe down a bit this end. Like I say, you don't want to maul this, it'll just fracture. Natural stone you wouldn't be too bad, but porcelain is more brittle. Okay, that's good. So I'll just clean these out a bit. There we go. Yeah, that's good. So that's in. Next one, the centre. So again, we're going to do the same principle. I'm just looking now by eye, roughly the thickness to bring it into 20 mil below the finished height, which is the height of our flags. Just working it in and around the handles there to make sure it's all in and there's no voids. I think there's a bit much in there. Okay, so here I've got a smaller piece, so I'm just going to do the same. Just to check it. That looks pretty good. And there. Little bit low. Okay, see, that's good. So take a bit down this side. It's also important when you're not so much with this, because you can only use one flag anyway, but when you're doing, say, a larger cover and you've got multiple flags running through, try and use the same flag for both, because sometimes you might have a piece that fits from another flag. It might be tempting to use that instead of using another flag, but always try and use the same piece on the internal as well and keep the pattern, because that's going to make it look more uniform and flow better, which is the whole idea of these covers. Okay, right, I'm happy with that. Yeah, it's good, it's good. Move that a bit that way. Okay, and once again draw it away from the edges a little bit. Because when your joints are tight like this, 3 milli, a little bit of grit in there could upset the alignment. Okay. Now, it's important to put it down the same way as it's being cut. So I've marked this, I know, I've got a little mark here, so I know it's going on this side. Because with these flags, you'll notice, well, you might notice, there's like a strata, like a veining, which runs through one direction. So all of these flags on here, I've put them in the same position, so they're all the same orientation, so they're all facing the one way. So on this you can see the veining running this way, so this will sit like that, which will be basically, it's from the same spot, is what I'm trying to say. So it's, and also these handles, they're not always in exactly the same position. Like this way, it could be a few milli out either way. So where you mark it, it's important that it goes back the right way, because potentially that's going to sit like that, but it could go that way. But if this handle, say, is a few mil out from this, then you're going to have a problem. Your cuts aren't going to be spot on from where you've originally marked it. So I know it's going back this side because I marked it. So I'll paste it up. Here we go. And then we get him down. Snug as a bug in a rug. Sweet, that just needs to come down a little bit so I can use me maul on this bit, because this ain't gonna break. Don't need to give it much welly because I know it's all solid and concrete underneath there. Check for alignment. Yeah, sweet. And that's it. So I'll just check these joints are recessed out so there's no mortar in there, so when we grout, the grout's going to go in there and get a good key, and then I'll just give it a clean down, and that's it, job done. Hope that was useful to you. You know, with these videos, everyone isn't going to agree on everything I do, so the purpose of it is just to help people gain a little bit of knowledge from it. I mean, I don't want to teach anyone to suck eggs. There's guys out there who's been doing it longer than me, so I'm not like saying I know it all. I don't. This is my method and what's worked for me, and if you out there can learn something from it, then that's brilliant. Right, so we're all cut in, all laid, everything's set. So before you grout it, point it, what I always do is take the cover out, just like that, and then grout it like this, because if you're going to be doing it when it's in situ, this joint here, which is all around, that's going to fill with the pointing material, whatever you're using. So if you do it like this, you can get in nice and easy around here, and the same around the handles. Once it's clean, then once it's done, cleaned off, you can drop it back in. So on this, we're using a grout, tile grout, Fusia Bella. So as you can see, you can just get in like this, nice and easy, all the way around. Especially if you're using flow points as well, because if you've got flow points in there, it's going to run right in, it's going to completely fill this void. So better doing this. Obviously you don't want to be washing any flow point down here, so you just obviously work around like this. You get the gist, and then the same on your cover. Just easy to work it like that. You can pull your handle up and get in around. Right, so we're all grouted up. When you're grouting or pointing, just make sure that the lid and the tray are both clear before it sets on these edges. Any overspill, get it off before it dries, okay? And then also, before you put it back on, just check there's no snots, no mortar dropped into your manhole. If there is, fish them out and then flush everything through so it's nice and clean. What I like to do as well, it's not essential, but I like to put some thick grease on the inside of the tray. Reason for that is obviously these lids, they're not going to be, most of the time you're not going to be picking them up. It's usually in an emergency if you do need to get into them, so you want to make sure you can get access straight away. So a bit of grease in there. I put it on this part rather than onto the lid, because if you're dropping that in, there's a good chance it's going to push up the sides and go onto your flags, surrounding flags. So I'll just rub it on the inside there like that. Okay, so drop it in. And that's it, it's done. Hope you enjoyed that video, hope you gained something from it. We're all learning all the time, learning every day myself, so you can never stop. I just want to say thank you, take this opportunity to thank everyone that's subscribed so far since our last video. We've hit 1,000 subscribers, so that's brilliant. I really appreciate that. Thanks everyone. And also I want to say thanks to Scott from Tidy Bricks. Thank you, mate. You've given us a few shout outs along the way. You're a top man, top landscaper. A lot of respect for you, mate. Thank you. And this video will be coming up soon of this build behind me. It's a cracker. It's quite detailed, a lot of detail in it. Just waiting for the client to finish a few bits and then I'll be posting that to you soon. So thanks again, thanks for watching, really appreciate it, and see you on the next one.